All right, I want to spend a little time just showing you our kind of the expert appointment kind of feature, or kind of known as the Genius Bar feature of our employee self-service catalog and portal application. This is Helsinki. This is our version 3. This is in the service portal, kind of using the service portal engine. And so let me start with kind of where you can see it in action, a couple different places. So first of all, you can attach it to, and I'll show you in a minute where this is, you can attach it to decision branches on this Get Help page, which as you go through, you can see when I click into a category like, or topical area like email access, it'll reveal an expert for me to, say, chat with or schedule appointment with. And so, and the schedule appointment is an on-off switch, which I'll show you in a moment. But so when I click on this, it'll take me to what is actually a catalog item, an expert appointment catalog item. And it's passing a parameter into it for what is the expert, in this case, the service desk. And I'll show you in a moment kind of some of the other definition behind this, but basically there's a schedule that's defined. In this case, this is a group that only takes appointments on Saturdays between 12 and I think 6 p.m. So it basically breaks out 30-minute windows for that schedule. The other way that you could get to this, if I did a search for just that catalog item by default for expert appointment and started at the item without going through the Get Help decision branches, you'll see when I come here, it'll first prompt me for what's the expert. So I have two experts defined in the system that allow or take appointments. One is our HR specialist, one is the service desk. So this is kind of, instead of starting from the Get Help in a topical area, this is just starting straight to an appointment. So I could choose HR, for example, and you can see here they've got a window that's basically 8 to 5 every day except weekends and holidays is kind of their schedule. And I can, if I click here, I can go back to select a different expert. So that's kind of how the interface works from a customer, and then ultimately you submit a request, and I'll show you there's then the workflow behind that particular request to execute the appointment. So kind of behind this, there's a couple different ways you get to. You can go straight to the table, or I tend to find to go to the decision branches themselves, and you'll see, like for example, our service desk expert is attached to that email decision branch. Let me highlight first itself for a second. You can, the way these decision branch records are set up, is you can define an expert specific to say a child branch, or if you define it in this case like on this high level email branch, all of these children branches like email access, configuration, other will inherit this expert. So let's look at the expert record. And so a couple things you'll see on the expert record. One, there's a chat queue. So this is where you make the association between the expert and what chat queue is available for that particular group. This is also used to drive what is the assignment group that I should send a expert appointment task to as well. So just note that. There, and then over here I can turn on and off appointments. And then if I did that, there wouldn't be an appointment option. If I do choose an appointment, you'll see what is the appointment catalog item. So this drives kind of what is the structure behind that item. And then the schedule. So let's look at the schedule first. So the schedule, a couple things you might want to do. One is there's a description with the schedule. This does show up when I'm looking for, prompted for an expert. You'll see available for appointments every week on Saturday between X and 9. So that is coming from this schedule description. And then ultimately the schedule itself is going to lay out what are the windows, and then there's a 30-minute segment that's made between that start and stop and windows of time. Back to the expert. So, and then the expert catalog item. This is one that's part of our application. So you'll see it's basically scoped to our application here. And a couple things I want to highlight with this on here. First of all, I'll go into edit mode so I can kind of see it in an interactive mode. One is it has a service portal template. So this is why when we go into requesting the expert appointment item, we get a very unique interface. So this is all defined in this template. And then just to give you a quick sneak peek at this, so there's code in here that basically looks for if I don't have an expert already defined, prompt for expert, and defines kind of a listing of the experts to choose. And then ultimately, if I have an expert, select a date and time and from the available list of items. So So that's the template. The other thing that's notable on this catalog item are there are some variables that are defined. So behind the scenes, what is actually being stored or input into this catalog item through that template are what is the expert group. It's a reference field to that expert table, the date, the time, and as well as a date and time field of that appointment. So those are all part of that request that ultimately gets filled in from that special form. And then there is a workflow on here that we've kind of canned with our application. And this is when we expect customers are going to adjust and adapt. Basically, the basic workflow that we've set up for here is one that sends a task to that fulfillment group associated with the expert record that'll coordinate an appointment with to coordinate an appointment with the customer. Then there's a notification once that's complete to the customer that the appointment's been confirmed. And then there's another task out here to actually execute that appointment with the customer. And then once that task is completed, then the request is done. So, a workflow you might want to adjust and tweak to match your specific needs. But that's our starting point workflow. All right, so just to kind of demonstrate this a little bit, let me create a new expert. Let's call facilities expert. I'm not going to give it a chat option. We'll leave the same expert appointment item here. And we'll do kind of an 8 to 5 excluding holidays schedule. So I will insert and stay a new expert here. I will choose a different picture. We'll just put a facilities picture there. And the other thing I want to do is I do want to attach this to, if I go back and look at my Get Help page, you'll see I've got a branch here for is this issue related to buildings or sites. So I want to attach my expert to that. So I'm going to look for my facilities related decision branch, and I'll just attach this to my facilities expert as well. So now when I refresh this page, I'll refresh the data that's on this page, and I choose building or site. Here's my kind of item, but you'll see now here's my expert, facilities expert with a schedule appointment option, which I can come in here. And then what I would expect to see is a list of dates and times that are tied to that schedule, which in this case was 8 to 5 excluding holidays. I can then submit a request to that expert. We got to choose a date, submit a request. And then on the request record, you'll see the various options are populated: the facilities expert, the requested date and time, the slot that was chosen as far as the available slots, and then kind of a combination of the two of date and time in a more readable format for that fulfillment group. And the other thing that happens on these, just to kind of complete the cycle, is these experts, I will just add to my list here. There is a table that's populated with the actual appointments themselves. So I just added that to my form. You'll see in this case it shows a date, it shows a time slot, and the user, so that when I come back into this, if I were to try to make an appointment for an expert, and I were to choose facilities as the expert and choose the date that I had before, what was the date? The 11th. Choose the 11th. You'll see it's already booked and reserved for that slot. So that's basically the gist of how this works. I hope this was helpful in terms of being able to see kind of how our expert appointment kind of catalog item is structured and some of the tables that go behind it.